Good morning, beloved. Today I want to ask you this: are you feeling overwhelmed by the uncertainties of life? Sometimes it can feel like everything is moving so fast, and we're being pulled in every direction. In moments like these, God calls us to a place of peace and rest. He calls us to be still and trust His plan. In Psalm 46 verse 10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." When life feels chaotic and we don't know what to do, God invites us to pause, to be still, and to remember that He is in control. He has a plan, and it's a good plan. No matter what challenges you face, remember, God is already at work behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail for your good. Today I want to encourage you to declare, "I choose to be still and trust God's plan for my life." Whatever you're facing, you can rest in the truth that God is sovereign, and His plan is perfect. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. God has already gone before you and is working all things together for your good. When we choose to be still, we are choosing to trust. Trusting God means surrendering control and believing that His ways are better than our own. It can be challenging to let go of our need to fix everything, but God calls us to trust that He is already working. His timing is perfect, and His plan is always better than our own. Let's declare, "I trust in God's perfect timing." Even when we don't see the full picture, we can trust that God is always at work, even in the unseen. He has a plan for your life that's far beyond what you could ever imagine. In Jeremiah 29 verse 11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." God's plans for you are good, even when you can't see it. He is working to bring about His best for your life. When life feels overwhelming, it's easy to become anxious, and anxious thoughts can easily crowd our minds. But God calls us to cast our anxieties on Him. In 1 Peter 5 verse 7, it says, "Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you." When you trust God's plan, you're also trusting that He cares for you deeply, so much that He wants to carry your burdens for you. Let's declare, "I give my anxieties to God because He cares for me." Whatever you're worried about today, surrender it to God. He is big enough to carry your burdens, and His love for you is greater than any fear or concern. Being still isn't just about waiting in silence, it's about resting in the knowledge that God is in control. In Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9, God says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." We can trust that God's ways are higher and better than ours. We may not always understand His plan, but we can be certain that He knows what's best. Trusting His plan is an act of surrender, choosing to let go of the need for control and instead trusting that He has a purpose for everything. Let's declare, "I trust God's plan even when I don't understand it." There will be times when you don't have all the answers, but remember, God sees the bigger picture. He is weaving together the threads of your life in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Trust that His plan is unfolding in your life, even in the moments when it feels uncertain. In Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, we are instructed, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." When we trust God fully, He directs our steps, He makes our paths clear, even when we don't know what's coming next. Being still means letting go of our own understanding and trusting God to lead us. Let's declare, "I trust God to direct my steps." When you surrender your plans to Him, He will guide you with wisdom and clarity, His direction will never fail you. Beloved, it's okay to not have everything figured out, it's okay to be still and trust God's plan for your life. Remember, God is not surprised by your challenges, He is not taken off guard by the twists and turns of your journey, He is already ahead of you, preparing the way and making your path straight. Let's declare, "God is already ahead of me, preparing the way." You may not see it yet, but God is working behind the scenes, He is preparing opportunities, relationships, and breakthroughs that are aligned with His perfect plan for your life. Even when you can't see the way forward, trust that He is already making a way for you. Sometimes being still means resting in God's peace. When you're still before Him, He fills you with peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace guards your heart and mind, even in the midst of uncertainty. In Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." God's peace will fill you as you trust Him and let go of the need to control your circumstances. Let's declare, God's peace guards my heart and mind. No matter what you face today, God's peace is available to you. When you trust His plan, His peace will cover you. Today I encourage you to take a moment to rest in God's presence, let go of your worries and anxieties, and choose to be still. Trust that God is in control, and His plan for your life is unfolding perfectly. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to trust the one who holds your future. As you declare these affirmations, let them strengthen your faith and remind you that God's plan is always better than your own. I choose to be still and trust God's plan for my life. I trust in God's perfect timing. I give my anxieties to God because He cares for me. I trust God's plan even when I don't understand it. I trust God to direct my steps. God is already ahead of me, preparing the way. God's peace guards my heart and mind. As you speak these words, know that you are aligning your heart with God's will. Trust His plan, rest in His peace, and walk confidently, knowing He is with you every step of the way. Now let us transition into a time of prayer. Father, I come before you today with a heart that feels heavy with waiting, where the silence between my prayers and your answers seems to stretch endlessly. In this sacred space of vulnerability, I can confess that waiting has become one of the most difficult spiritual disciplines in my walk with you. The gap between my heartfelt petitions and your divine response often feels like a vast desert, barren and seemingly without purpose. Lord, you know how deeply we struggle when your divine timeline doesn't align with our expectations. We mark our calendars, set our deadlines, and then stand bewildered when your perfect plan unfolds at a pace that feels painfully slow to our limited understanding. The uncertainty of waiting stirs up raw emotions we'd rather keep buried, feelings of abandonment, doubt, and the nagging question, have you forgotten me? These emotions aren't pretty, but they're honest, and I bring them before you unfiltered. In these waiting seasons, our deepest insecurities rise to the surface like sediment disturbed in still water. We question whether you truly hear our cries. The silence between our prayers and your answers becomes fertile ground for the enemy to plant seeds of doubt. If God loved you, wouldn't He respond faster? Whispers through our minds in moments of weakness. This waiting reveals not just our impatience, but our profound fear that perhaps our prayers have fallen on deaf ears, that perhaps we're facing life's storms alone. You see us, Lord, standing at life's crossroads, desperately seeking direction while feeling frozen in indecision. Which path leads to your best for us? Which door should we knock upon? Which opportunity aligns with your purpose? We squint into the distance, searching for signs, for clarity, for just a glimpse of where you're leading, yet the fog of uncertainty remains, and we feel paralyzed, afraid to move forward lest we choose wrongly, yet equally afraid to remain stationary and miss your timing. Your word assures us that waiting isn't purposeless, even when we cannot see its value unfolding. Like a master potter, you're often doing your most significant work in these seemingly dormant seasons. Just as winter's barrenness prepares for spring's abundance, these waiting periods are cultivating deeper roots of faith within us. The pruning, though painful, prepares us for greater fruitfulness. The refining, though uncomfortable, purifies our motives and priorities. The waiting, though agonizing, creates space for transformation that instant gratification never could. I recognize the constant tension between my desire for immediate answers and your invitation to trust your perfect timing. My human heart cries, now, Lord, while your spirit whispers, not yet, beloved. This struggle reveals the immaturity in my faith, how quickly I want to bypass the character-forming process to reach the comfort of resolution. Yet your delays are not denials, your timing isn't punishment but protection. When I demand answers according to my schedule, I'm essentially telling the Creator of time that I know better than you when things should happen. Our human nature instinctively craves control, while your spirit gently invites surrender. We want guarantees, certainty, and assurances before stepping out in faith, we attempt to manipulate outcomes, orchestrate circumstances, and force doors open that you've purposefully kept closed for a season. Yet in this struggle for control, we find ourselves exhausted, anxious, and further from the peace you promise. Your Spirit calls us instead to open our clenched fists, to release our white-knuckled grip on how we believe our lives should unfold. Lord, I long for peace amid this waiting, not the shallow peace that comes from getting what I want, but the profound peace that flows from trusting who you are. I yearn for the calm assurance that, while I cannot see what you're doing, I can rest in knowing you are working all things together for good. I hunger for the quiet confidence that comes not from certainty about my future, but from certainty about your character. This peace seems so elusive in waiting seasons, yet I believe it's possible when I shift my focus from what I'm waiting for to who I'm waiting with. Lord, in this moment, I acknowledge my struggle with waiting isn't hidden from you. You see every tear, every sleepless night, every anxious thought. You understand the storm of emotions that waiting creates within me. You're not distant from my struggles but intimately acquainted with them. You don't condemn my impatience but compassionately invite me to a deeper trust. Nothing about my waiting surprises you or overwhelms your ability to work through it for my good and your glory. Your word reminds us that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, Isaiah 40 verse 31, so help us wait with hope rather than despair. Transform our waiting from passive endurance to active expectation, not of getting exactly what we've asked for, but of encountering you more deeply in the process. Teach us to wait with eyes open to the smaller gifts you're providing in the meantime, with hearts attuned to the lessons you're teaching, and with spirits surrendered to your sovereign timing. May our waiting be filled not with anxiety, but with anticipation for how your perfect plan will ultimately unfold in ways far better than we could have orchestrated ourselves. Even as we surrender to your sovereign timing, Lord, I find myself confronting perhaps my greatest struggle, this persistent urge to control every detail of my life. The weight of carrying outcomes that were never mine to determine has left me utterly exhausted. My shoulders ache from bearing responsibilities you never intended me to carry alone. Heavenly Father, I confess how tightly I've been gripping the reins of my life, believing the illusion that control brings safety. Each morning, I awake with a mental checklist, appointments to schedule, conversations to orchestrate, outcomes to guarantee. I've convinced myself that if I just plan carefully enough, work diligently enough, or worry thoroughly enough, I can somehow ensure that life unfolds according to my carefully constructed blueprint. This obsession with control has become my silent master, demanding sacrifices of peace, joy, and rest upon its altar. The truth is painful to admit, Lord, but my desperate grasp for control stems from something deeper than mere preference for order. It flows from a wellspring of fear that if I surrender control to you, you might not handle things the way I want. This unspoken doubt about your goodness has kept my hands clenched around situations, relationships, and futures that were always rightfully yours to direct. How foolish I've been to think my limited wisdom could outmaneuver your eternal perspective. Control has suddenly become an idol in my life, a false god I worship with my anxiety, my sleepless nights, and my endless strategizing. I've elevated my understanding above yours, believing somehow that the created knows better than the creator. I've studied the instruction manual of life as if I engineered it myself, forgetting that you designed every intricate detail of existence long before I drew my first breath. What arrogance to think I could improve upon your divine blueprints with my human modifications. This relentless pursuit of control has left me deeply weary. The constant vigilance required to maintain the illusion of mastery over my circumstances has drained my spirit. I carry the weight of tomorrow's problems alongside today's burdens, collecting worries like unwanted souvenirs from places I haven't even visited yet. My mind races with contingency plans for scenarios that may never materialize, while my heart pounds with the fear of what might happen if a single detail slips through my fingers. In the midst of this exhaustion, I hear your gentle invitation echoing through the ages. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11 verse 28. These aren't merely poetic words, but a divine summons to lay down the heavy yoke of self-determination I've fashioned for myself. You're offering to exchange my burdensome illusion of control for your perfect rest, not because you need my surrender, but because my soul was designed to find peace only when nested in your sovereign care. The great paradox of faith now stands before me. True freedom comes not from controlling more, but from surrendering completely. Each time I release my white-knuckled grip on a situation, I don't lose power, I gain peace. When I stop trying to force outcomes, I discover the liberating truth that I was never actually in control to begin with. What appeared to be strength was actually my greatest weakness, keeping me bound to fears and limiting my experience of your boundless grace. As I reflect more deeply, Lord, I recognize that my attempts at control are often rooted in past wounds and disappointments. When prayers seemed unanswered or hopes were dashed against unexpected outcomes, I subconsciously decided that you couldn't be trusted with my most precious concerns. Each painful experience became another brick in the wall of self-protection I built around my heart. Rather than bringing my hurt to you for healing, I responded by tightening my grip even further, vowing never again to be caught unprepared or vulnerable. These control mechanisms I've developed, the excessive planning, the refusal to delegate, the inability to rest until every detail is perfect, they aren't signs of exceptional responsibility, they're symptoms of a heart that hasn't fully embraced the liberating truth that you are God and I am not. My constant reaching for the conductor's baton reveals how difficult I find it to be simply one instrument in your divine orchestra, playing my part while trusting you with the symphony. Father, today I open my clenched fists and release these situations I've been trying to control. Pause for viewers to personally identify their areas. I acknowledge the fear that rises as I contemplate truly letting go. Each of these concerns has become so intertwined with my sense of identity and security that releasing them feels like losing a part of myself, yet I know that whatever falls from my open hands lands in yours, hands that are infinitely more capable, loving, and wise than my own could ever be. With open hands, I've surrendered control, but now face a sobering reality. Even if you speak, would I recognize your voice amid the deafening noise of my daily life? My world overflows with constant sound, notifications chiming, videos auto-playing, opinions shouting from every corner. This digital symphony never pauses, creating a spiritual static that makes your divine frequency increasingly difficult to detect. Lord, I confess that in this age of information, I've become addicted to noise. The average person today consumes more information in a single day than someone in the 1800s would encounter in their entire lifetime. My mind constantly processes headlines, social media updates, podcasts, playlists, and endless conversations, leaving precious little mental space for your gentle whispers. This isn't merely a modern problem, though technology has amplified it. My resistance to silence has deeper roots. When the noise fades, I'm forced to confront uncomfortable truths about myself and the state of my relationship with you. In the quiet, I can no longer avoid the questions that haunt the edges of my consciousness. Am I living according to your will? Have I been ignoring your repeated guidance? What parts of my heart have I kept hidden from your transforming light? The prophet Elijah discovered that your voice wasn't in the earthquake, wind, or fire, but in the gentle whisper that followed. Yet I've trained my spiritual ears to expect you only in dramatic demonstrations, missing your most intimate communications because they arrive without fanfare or spectacle. My spiritual hunger grows more profound with each passing day, even as I fill my mind with countless voices that offer temporary satisfaction but lasting emptiness. I've substituted human wisdom for divine guidance, preferring the immediate gratification of another person's certainty to the patient cultivation of hearing you directly. Podcasts, sermons, and spiritual books are beneficial gifts, but they were never meant to replace the intimate communion of Creator and created. In the endless noise, my anxiety flourishes like moss in perpetual shade. Each new voice adds another layer of tension, another perspective to weigh, another option to consider. Meanwhile, authentic peace blossoms only in stillness, in the sacred attentiveness to your presence that requires intentional silence. This is the paradox I struggle to embrace. What feels like unproductive emptiness is actually the fertile ground where you plant your most transformative truths. Jesus understood this essential rhythm. Throughout the Gospels I see him withdrawing from the demands of ministry to pray alone. Even as crowds sought him desperately, he maintained this discipline of solitude. In Luke 5 verse 16, Scripture tells us that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. If the incarnate Son of God needed these quiet spaces to commune with the Father, how much more do I require them? I've misunderstood what it means to hear your voice, Lord. I've been passively waiting for you to overpower all competing noise rather than intentionally creating space where your whispers can be heard. Hearing you isn't about waiting for supernatural interruption, but about cultivating a listening heart, a discipline as intentional as any spiritual practice. The psalmist understood this when he wrote, "Be still and know that I am God," Psalm 46 verse 10. This invitation to stillness isn't merely about physical quietness, but about a soul posture that acknowledges you as sovereign while I cease my restless striving. In a culture that rewards constant productivity and visible achievement, choosing stillness feels counterintuitive, even irresponsible, yet this countercultural practice might be precisely what my soul needs most. When I examine the lives of those who have walked closely with you throughout history, I notice a common thread: they prioritized silence, from the desert fathers and mothers who retreated from civilization to hear you more clearly, to modern contemplatives who carve out daily spaces for silence. The pattern remains consistent: those who know you most intimately are those who have learned to quiet themselves before you. My resistance to silence reveals my deeper resistance to transformation. In the quiet, you often invite me to change, to release grudges I've nurtured, to forgive those who've wounded me, to surrender dreams that no longer align with your purposes. No wonder I fill every moment with noise. It provides the perfect escape from your transforming presence. This avoidance carries a devastating cost. Just as a marriage withers without meaningful conversation, my relationship with you grows distant without intentional listening. The intimate communion possible between us remains unexperienced when I never pause long enough to hear what you're saying. I've been settling for knowledge about you instead of knowing you directly through your voice. The technology in my pocket offers unprecedented access to information while simultaneously threatening my capacity for divine communion. Each notification triggers dopamine pathways that make silence increasingly uncomfortable. My brain has been rewired to crave constant stimulation, making the discipline of attentive listening more challenging than ever before. Yet this very challenge presents an opportunity. In a world drowning in noise, those who cultivate the ability to hear your voice develop a rare and precious gift. Like sound-canceling headphones that filter unwanted noise, spiritual disciplines of silence and solitude create space where your voice can be distinguished from all others. Beyond the stillness where we hear his voice lies something equally powerful, the testimony of his past faithfulness. The Israelites carried 12 stones from the Jordan River as physical reminders of God's deliverance, yet still questioned his provision weeks later. Our hearts work the same way, forgetting divine intervention as soon as new troubles appear. What might change if we became intentional keepers of our spiritual history? Gracious God, when doubt clouds my vision, help me remember the stones of remembrance in my own journey, those unmistakable moments of your faithfulness that serve as anchors when uncertainty threatens to sweep me away. In Joshua 4, you commanded your people to create a memorial of 12 stones from the riverbed of the Jordan. Each stone represented a testimony, a moment when you parted waters and made impossible paths possible. Yet how quickly those same Israelites who walked on dry ground where rushing waters had been forgot your power when facing giants in the promised land. Their memory failed them at the precise moment remembrance would have fueled their courage. I confess that I am no different. When you answered that desperate midnight prayer last year, I proclaimed I would never doubt again. When you provided unexpectedly during financial strain, I declared your faithfulness would forever be my testimony. When you healed relationships I believed beyond repair, I vowed never to question your ability to restore what seems lost. Yet here I stand before another mountain, another closed door, another impossible situation, and my memory has betrayed me.